Hey everyone, it's me, CCYamato. I'm appearing in the old school format this time because it's a little easier to do. Time is kind of tight here, but I still want to talk about the chapters. I'm getting ready to move, and it's possible that the next few chapter reviews are going to kind of be in this format. I don't like this format, but it does take a long time to put together the other one. So hopefully I can get those out in a little more timely manner, but if I can't, then we're just going to do the next few chapters like this. So I'm going to do a double feature here, and I'm going to talk about the two chapters that have just come out, chapter 35 and 36. To recap, back in 34, they are at the pool, and Akiho's inner demon gets set off, and we got left on a cliffhanger there for 2 months. So now we're coming back, and we're talking about, or we're experiencing a little more of Akiho's background again. So Sakura got pulled into the book. She wakes up, she's in Akiho's clothes, and she is kind of filling in she's playing the part of Akiho in one of Akiho's flashbacks. So we get the squid people all over, and she gets to experience some of Akiho's life, which is really sad, and that comes off to her like it's really miserable and heart-wrenching just hearing the squid people talk bad about this child. We don't know that Akiho's parents are part of this squad at all, but I think the implication at this point, by this point in Akiho's life, is that she's been abandoned by her parents, or her parents aren't in the picture for a reason. And I'll cover that in a little bit, because there is actually something that comes up in chapter 36. But for now, that's what's happening in chapter 35. After that, on the outside world, we see Kaito come down and see that Akiho's kind of just in stasis, standing there over the book, and he sees some of her memories. We get to see a little bit of Kaito and Akiho's backstory, or rather, we see the first time that Kaito ever met Akiho. So they met in a nice garden. It's a lovely little scene. This implies that this is maybe the first time that Kaito and Akiho have actually met face to face, because obviously Kaito knew about Akiho for a while. When he was tasked by the Magic Guild to look into her, he was still a kid. But at this point, when he's meeting her, he's clearly a bit older. So this is probably like the first time they've ever met. So after that, Kaito decides that he needs more time because he's continuing to stall, because as I've brought up multiple times, he could just ask Sakura to make a specific kind of card for him, but he's looking to draw this out for as long as possible. So he puts a time kind of pause on Akiho's curse, which, as it turns out, as is explained in this chapter, Akiho, since she has no magic, she's kind of been cursed to like absorb all magic around her. So she apparently contains all sorts of spells and enchantments. Like, she just absorbs magic like a sponge. And so Kaito, in order to stop this process for a little while, he casts a time spell, which, once again, as Momo points out, it's shortening his life every time he's casting time magic, which kind of plays into my theory that I think by the end of this series, Kaito is definitely going to die. Or at the very least, he's going to have one of those, like, I'm alive, but I only have like a week left to live or something. So I don't know. Like, CCS is one of those series where they try to keep it pretty light. It's definitely not going to become Tsubasa or Triple X Holic or anything, but I feel like Clear Card is going in a direction where they're willing to tackle something a little heavier. So seeing the main quote-unquote antagonist die is not out of the question. So Sakura gets out of the book, and Kaito has reversed time back to right before everything went down. And no one's noticed, of course, but Sakura is now overcome with emotion. We get a hug from her. She has no idea why she's so emotional, because she doesn't remember anything that happened while she was in the book. But yeah, I mean, it's just like I was just saying, we're ready to tackle something a little more emotionally deep. I don't know how far it's going to go, but that's how it goes for Sakura in this chapter. Next, we move on to chapter 36. This one actually has a lot of content to go over. And it's great because I felt like the series has kind of been stagnating for a little bit recently. So now we have a little more like stuff going on. Like, we start off pretty simple first. Like, we get Sakura actually wearing a new costume. She's been wearing a lot of costumes like on covers and artwork and promotional stuff and all that, but you gotta think, like, in the series, it's actually been quite a while since she actually got to wear an outfit. I think maybe the last time she got to wear an outfit in canon was against the Blaze card. I think that may have been the last time she wore something for a card, because we've had a lot of chapters recently of just kind of plot exposition. We haven't had an action chapter. And to be fair, this isn't an action chapter. She's just at Tomoyo's house trying on clothes, which this is at least the second time that's happened, which I guess is the only time they really get to have that opportunity anymore, because most of the clear cards have been popping up at really inopportune times. While we're talking about costumes, I actually really like this one. Like, I like the military look of it, or maybe it's a little bit of a marching band, but it's definitely got that's got like a garrison cap look. She's got the cape. Like, it's a really neat design. And actually, someone on Twitter did a colorization to look like an episode. It's really good, and I'll link it down in the description. It's amazing. Like, it's a great color scheme. She makes it like red and white and gold. It's really good. Like, you can't tell, obviously, in the manga what color it's supposed to be, but as far as costumes go, this is one of my favorites just in this franchise, and she's barely worn it. Anyway, I'm talking a lot about other things because the next part of the chapter, they just talk about chocolate mint, like, snacks. They're talking about macaroons. There are 3 pages dedicated to talking about macaroons and ice cream and sweets, and part of that is because we go to see Yukito at his job, serve an ice cream, because Nakaru is hanging around. She's doing her job of being a battery for Yukito. It kind of escaped me for a second there. Why is Nakaru, like, hanging out everywhere that Yukito is? And then I remember, oh, right, she's supposed to be there to keep him from dying. So we leave the ice cream shop and we go back to the Kinomoto house and we get more plot exposition. But this time it's involving Nadeshiko and Fujitaka. Like, you probably remember, or maybe have forgotten by this point, at the beginning of the series, Fujitaka kind of laments that Nadeshiko hasn't been around, and we find out why. It's because Nadeshiko is aware that Sakura's power has gotten to the point where she can see Nadeshiko's ghost now, and apparently this is a bad thing. She doesn't want to trouble Sakura, or she doesn't want to get her involved in things because Nadeshiko knows things, as we find out in a flashback. We see that when she was a young girl, she met a girl in England, and then when she was a teenager, shortly before meeting Fujitaka, she met that same girl from England again, but this time in Japan. That girl is the one who I think gives her the clock amulet that Nadeshiko had been carrying since she was in England, and then was passed to Sakura by her grandfather. Then when she meets that girl again in Japan, that girl, who you'll notice has like Akiho's hairstyle, so it's pretty obvious we're setting this up that this is Akiho's mother, she puts some kind of enchantment on the clock. The clock that I mentioned for anyone who only watches the anime, but this is the clock got turned into a key. I'm not even sure how that's supposed to change the story once we get to that point when the second season of the anime eventually comes around. But yeah, that's a lot of stuff that's introduced in this chapter. Like, very briefly, it just kind of goes like, Nadeshiko met this girl when she was a kid, she got the clock, then she met the girl again when she was a teenager, the teenager cast a spell on the clock. It implies that maybe Nadeshiko is at least a little bit aware of magic stuff, but she certainly doesn't really question this obviously magic girl who is going around casting spells on things in her possession. So I mentioned early in the video where Akiho's parents appear to be absent, but this is at least the first time where we confirm that she definitely has parents. Like, I had been considering for a while that maybe Akiho had no parents, and I said this in the last episode, that apparently we definitely have confirmed that Akiho is actually a person. She was born, she does have parents that just seem to be gone. This is just kind of more proof that she does definitely have a mother, and her mother had the same hairstyle as her, and maybe even gave her that hairstyle, which is more love than, at the very least, the series has been implying she received so far. At least her mother liked her enough to style her hair, if not abandon her to a bunch of mages. So this chapter ends with Shaoran showing up at Tomoyo's house, And we once again go back to the macaroon discussion, which is thankfully cut very short as Sakura and Shaoran discover that there appears to be some distance between them, as when they reach out to touch each other, their hands are shocked. And my initial thought to this was that, oh no, has Kaito decided that not being able to talk is not good enough? He's going to just physically separate them at this point, like make them unable to touch each other. I started having flashbacks at the beginning of Tsubasa where they're trapped in the cylinder thing. And then I thought about it a little more and I realized, you know what? We haven't had a new card in a while. I'll bet this is just a new card. She's probably made some kind of like barrier card or repulsion or something. My theory, and I don't know, you know how good my theories are, but since Sakura is making these cards from things in her life, or emotionally or impulsively, and it manifested in the presence of Shaoran, and the first thing it does is keep them separated. I almost wonder if there's some kind of psychological thing, like she feels distant from Shaoran, and she has made a magic card that literally makes it impossible for people to connect. That is possibly a plot element that is far too deep for this series. I know earlier I was saying that we should give it credit that it wants to tackle something deeper. It just seems like it's a little too psychologically deep for this series, which is overall, it's certainly not low literature, but I don't think it's high enough literature that they're going to go with a theme like that. Or if they do go with a theme like that, they're going to explain it in one page. But that's manga. That's not really criticizing Cardcaptor Sakura. That's just manga. So that's chapter 35 and chapter 36. This is, I don't plan to make a habit of doing these sort of stream of conscious recordings. However, if you like this format over my other one, I like doing the other one, but if this one is better received or my thoughts come out better, and I'm not sure they do because this is, as I said, it's very unscripted. I have just a couple of notes and the chapters in front of me as I go through them. But this is more of a stream of consciousness, the same way that I did the anime episodes. If you like this format, go ahead and tell me in the comments. If you want me to bring back the other format, I'm certainly going to. It's just, as I said, those do take a little bit of time, and time is a resource that I'm running out of. I am moving out of Hawaii soon, so at the very least, when I record, I will not be quite as hot. Next month, when the next chapter comes out, I will at least try and bring back my mascot, who doesn't have a name, but for now he is just CCYamato. I just don't have time to animate him right now. Not that what I do is particularly close to animation. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in chapter 37. Go ahead and, as I said, leave comments down below if you like this format. If you hate this format, tell me that too. I need some kind of feedback so I know what to do next. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.